Yeah.
Good morning. I'm calling the Culture Committee to order at 10:31. Would you all stand?
Most gracious Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this day. We thank you for the opportunity to serve our people, dear Lord, and just guide and bless as we make decisions today. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Roll call, shall I please?
Yes, ma'am. Victoria Vesquez. Joe Berg.
Honey?
Boston. Here. Harley Bezer. Here. Julia Coates. I'm sorry, she withdrew one time. Sean Crittenden. Joe Deere.
Aye.
Mike Dobbins.
Here.
Hayden Duncan.
Aye.
Rex Jordan.
Here.
Darrell Legg.
Here.
Wes Snowfire.
Aye.
Laura Petzkowski.
Here.
Mike Shambaugh.
Here.
Mary Bakershaw.
Ani.
Eo Smith.
Here.
Denise Taylor. Here. We have a quorum.
Thank you.
Morning.
If everyone's had a chance to check over the last month's minutes, or 2 months ago minutes, would someone make a motion?
So moved.
Second. All approved?
Aye.
All opposed? I don't think there's any opposed. Thank you. All right. Well, I'm glad to announce this is our first time to have Culture Committee take an hour and a half. We may not take it all, but at least we have it. And one of the main reasons I did that is because we're adding a report from Betty Frog, representing our Cherokee National Treasurers Advisory Committee. And our National Treasurers have lots of things going on all the time, and sometimes I don't even know about it till I get the letter because I am a National Treasurer, and I'm just amazed and happy at all the things we're doing for our treasurers. So anyway, that's one of the reasons we're going a little longer. So we will start today with, as usual, cultural tourism. Ms. Molly Jarvis. Welcome.
Thank you. Hey, Molly. So I'll just touch on a couple of highlights from the report this morning. We have our capital projects that we continue to work on, and that includes the cultural pathway that we're working on here in downtown Tahlequah that will connect our history museum linked to Supreme Court, back through Court Mall, and on to the prison. So we'll give people a really nice cultural pathway to connect those facilities and walk through. We're completing the design for that and expect to bid that out soon. And then Saline Courthouse, all of the construction work is complete there. We do have our caretaker on site. We are working to complete the exhibit for that property and plan to have an official opening later this spring. I think you have gotten a communication about John Ross Museum being closed for some repairs to the drainage system there. So we want to make sure to continue to protect that property, and we were having some water issues really close to the building. So we wanted to make sure we get that corrected so no deterioration takes place. And then we did have a roof repair at Sequoia's cabin. A couple other things I wanted to mention was in the report, you see that we do have our Cherokee Days in Washington, D.C. scheduled again. So I know people are starting to make travel arrangements and accommodations. So that's coming up April 3rd through 5th. If you'd like to join us there, we hope that you will. Our exhibit will be a new one for us this year, and we'll focus on the history of Cherokee delegations. So that will be a new exhibit for us. A couple other things that exhibits that were finalized after you received your report, and these are all available on visitcherokeenation.com, but just to give you some updates on what's coming at our history museum in March, we'll be changing out the Cecil Dick exhibit to an exhibit about Cherokee Delegate and the voice of our people. And then we're also doing some work in Bartlesville with their history museum and a Trail of Tears exhibit. And then we're also working with the J.M. Davis Museum to do an update on an exhibit there. And then we have our regularly scheduled events that we've been having, some make and takes and story corners. We'll have our spring break event again. So again, all those are, the full schedule of all those events is on visitcherokeenation.com. I think that's most of the updates, unless there are any questions.
Any counselors have questions? Yes, Ms.
Molly, this really isn't about your report, but it's a question. Can you tell me where the original Dawes rolls are stored?
Oh. Right off the top of my head. Yeah. I don't know, but I can. Yes. I don't know the answer to that question.
I didn't know, so.
I don't think we have it.
Does it? Yeah.
I have a friend that,
Good
if I may
question.
speak. I have a friend that bought an old home and found a box full of Creek Nation original Dawes rolls that actually had all their deed, land descriptions and everything, and he still has it. Wild Horse Mountain Barbecue, them ones, they got it. Really? Big box.
I'm sure someone can check into that right now.
We will, and
Yeah, so I'm wondering.
Yes. Councilor Dunbar.
Can I get a copy of the cultural pathway design whenever y'all get that finished?
yes, sir.
And that'd be awesome to see.
Anyone else? Molly, I just had a question or comment about the cultural pathways. And I've mentioned this before, but then I didn't follow up myself, so it's probably my fault. But I would like to speak with someone about more public art in
Yes.
downtown Tahlequah. And I don't know if you've already talked to Jane Osty or other people, but if we could get a dialogue going on that, I'd really be interested.
Yeah, we do have a plan for public art included in that pathway, and also some spaces that could be used for outdoor, if we had a market or, something
Right.
along those lines where people could set up. But yes, we will.
That would be great, thank
Okay.
you. Yes.
Molly, our new museum, courthouse square, what are we actually calling that? Would you refresh
Yes,
on that?
Cherokee National History Museum.
Cherokee National History Museum.
Yes,
Okay. Now, it looks nice. It's great. How are we getting foot traffic in there? Because you've got school kids that are wanting to go. What months? We've got slow months like everybody else. January, weekend sometime. How are we? Is there a plan in place to accommodate like Grandview, Woodall, Briggs on certain days, or are we just saying come to the museum?
Well, a couple of things along those lines. When we opened the History Museum in August, we did roll out a new branding campaign for the entire tourism department. So we refreshed the look, and we did a lot of promotion of that History Museum through our social media channels. But then starting this spring season, I'll make this mention because I don't think we've provided this update. Our museums have always been free to Cherokee citizens.
Okay.
And then we have had special days during the holiday or other times of the year where we open them free to everyone. But starting this spring, the museums will be free of charge to everyone. So we won't have to differentiate that at all. So yes, ours will be, and then we're working with our partner museums to offer a discount if they have a charge. And that's through our passport book. So those will become free now. We will still, if you've got a large group tour or somebody coming in from the outside with a tour, we'll still have a charge for if we've got a guide going with them on a bus or something along those lines. But those passports will be free, and then we'll have an opportunity for some coupons in there for our partner museums who do charge an admission. And then we still offer our community tours. We haven't done anything like a specific day for communities or event organizations. So that's one thing we could look at in the future is maybe a specific day, like you mentioned, for a community. But so far, we've had more than 10,000 visitors through that History Museum. So we've been very pleased with the traffic that's come through.
And one thing that it's difficult to do to alter it now is that to accommodate kids. There's always a place where you can show a little video with chairs or a little theater type, and we don't have that in there.
Yeah.
We didn't think about that as we
One
were.
of the things we're hoping to engage younger people or even the general public is through that interactive with the
Okay.
iPads.
Sure.
Where you can, it's the augmented reality, where you take the iPad around. So that is one piece where we were considering the engagement of younger people through
Okay.
technology.
Okay, all right, thank
Are
you.
you going to ask her about it?
Yes, so when you say free to everyone?
Yes.
Tribal members, non-tribal members?
Everyone.
Great,
Okay.
thank you.
Yes, yes.
Can't beat
And
that.
Counselor Deere had a question.
Well, you know that Tulsa's doing that extension at Greenwood, that museum area. Have you guys engaged those guys about art or anything down there?
I don't believe we've had any engagement with that group.
Okay.
I don't, and I'm not familiar with that project, so I
Yeah,
can-
I don't know, I think I heard the number 18 million is what the extension's gonna be at Greenwood.
Okay. I can find out more about that.
All right, thanks.
Right, yes, can't think of
Molly,
it.
has there been any discussion, or have we thought about doing anything with that entranceway, the old entranceway to the city courthouse, where the old bridge used to be?
Oh,
Has there been any discussion about doing something with that to make that the main entrance or not?
I'm gonna turn to Travis and, yeah.
Yeah, sure. So
About that?
we are looking at alternatives for some bridge kits, but that won't be something that we'll have done when we open. We are still planning that the primary entrance will be, just to the, on the other side of the property, they'll come down that hill. But we are looking at some bridge kits for an alternative for that area.
I just think, for the last 100 years, the entrance has been where it used to be. And we've moved it down the road a quarter of a mile. So anyway, I just maybe give some thought about it. Maybe we could do something there again, because that's the original entrance of that old grounds there when they come across that old bridge. But I have another question on, you mentioned collaborating with the museum in Bartlesville and another place. What kind of collaboration are you doing now?
Usually it's assistance with an exhibit that they want to do about
Okay.
Cherokee Nation.
Good.
So we either provide historical consultation or work with our partner museums, or if there's an artifact that they have and need to get on loan, we help with that, or even the loan of some exhibits that we have done.
Good, very good. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, Harley. I just wanted to add in that vein, I have gone to that museum a few times, and just recently I got to tour it again. And probably about 10 years ago, I was asked, along with another potter, to, I guess it was a collector bought our pieces and then donated them to the museum. So I went through there to see if it was still up, and it's not, so it's probably in archives. Maybe you can check with them on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it had something to do, it was a clay mask I made, and I had it named Peace Chief or something like that, so just check it out.
And that's at Bartlesville?
Uh-huh, the Bartlesville History Museum, which is a nice venue.
Yeah.
It really is. Anyone else? Okay, great, thank you, Molly.
Thank you.
She is. Next up, we got Miss Betty Frog, Cherokee National Treasures Advisory Committee, and Betty serves as the president or chair of that committee. And she is a national treasure. In fact, everyone on the board now is a national treasure, right?
See on the God.
Yep. So,
I think everybody got a report and read through it. And it outlines everything that we do as an advisory committee. And we managed a mentorship program where we allow the treasurers to mentor students. And we also have an art show in July where they show off all their works and what they've learned, which is a really, really good art show. And they're allowed to sell, so if you guys get a chance, we usually advertise it. Come out and buy some really good pieces from all these students. Our mentors are very, very good. They have lots of patience. If you have any questions?
anyone have, yes, Counselor Shaw.
Betty, I loved your report. I learned so much just reading it. I do have a question. How many living national treasures do we have per category?
Oh, man.
Is that like a good question?
That's a good question. We did have it broken down at one time. In fact, during our Christmas luncheon, we had it broken down, how many bowers we had and how many basket makers. I think the basket makers outnumbered everybody, and our potters were very small in numbers. All the other categories had at least, almost at least 5 or 6.
How many categories are there?
Let's see, basketry, pottery, boyers, flint knapping, quilt making, traditional garments, painting, language,
I believe there, the last time I counted, we had
cooking.
about,
We have one,
Traditional
Betty
cooking.
Smith is one in cooking, traditional foods.
15 categories?
we had about 15. And I did have that in my notes. I didn't find it just now, but I did recently have a National Treasures, the Living National Treasures list, and we can get that quite easily.
I don't know if this is a good question, and I'm not sure I'm saying it right, but whenever our national treasures are selected annually, I think we select, is it 3 a year?
3.
Is consideration given to the category where there's the least or where there's a vacancy per se?
Basically, that's kind of what we do. We look at who's nominated, because anybody in the Cherokee Nation can nominate a person for Living Treasure. And if those papers aren't complete, they've got to be complete. Everything's got to be, everything crossed, dotted, everything. And we separate them in different categories. So it's quite a process.
I was just wondering if we have the most in basketry, if your odds are better, if you can.
Do it in a
something
different
else.
category? Yeah, probably. I would say so.
Just thought I'd ask.
That's a good question.
What a.
I would like to add to that, it's up to 3. We don't necessarily have to have 3 every year, but you can have up to 3. And it also, I've heard a little bit about, I don't sit in on the jurying process. I'm an advisory member of that committee. But in talking with them after the fact, they have a very stringent grading process. And they take all of the applications, and they get a lot of them, and they have a numbering system. Have they got this, have they got that? And at the end of that row, whoever has the most points is viable. And then at the end, that's how they figure out who they're going to nominate. And then, of course, the chief has to approve it before it goes out in public. I had a question about that very thing. What month is it that the nomination forms are
The
released?
nomination forms come out in May.
That's what, okay.
And they're they can get it online, and they can also go through the Phoenix, or they can get in contact with one of us advisory committees.
Or me. And then the cutoff date for the nominations, isn't it usually end of June?
Yes.
Okay. Right. Yes, Councilor No Fire.
Hey, Betty, is there anything that y'all are working on or that we could get working on with our schools and the students in our schools to possibly go around and?
We have talked about that.
Yeah.
We have talked about that. We would love to go into the schools,
Right,
but we have talked about also the financial part of it.
right.
I'm not sure. There's a lot of things that we have been meeting about, and I'm not sure about that part about going to the schools. I know we talked about it, but I love working in schools because that's what I do right now.
Yeah,
But I love educating our people in Cherokee arts and history,
yeah,
and I think a lot of our treasures do the same thing.
absolutely. Great, great. Well, I mean, that's something that I think that would be amazing to see.
Well, a
is-
lot of times they bring in JOM.
Yeah.
JOM people. JOM has a list of crafters that they send out to schools too.
Okay,
But as far as national treasures, we have really not sent out anybody.
yeah,
But I do a lot of schools myself. And
Would
every
you,
once in a while, we might mention that I am a national treasure.
would you let me know when you do have more discussion about that very thing? And I would like to add too that one of the restrictions, not a restriction, but so much as we do have budget restraints on, constraints on how much they can pay. And there is a stipend for every national treasure when they do something like that, and there's a limit.
Right.
So that's, the JOM might be a better place to start. And then if they don't have one and they recommend, they could work with Betty to
Okay.
maybe get a national treasure. Because I know
Yeah.
that there are people that would love to do it. Some people aren't able to.
Right.
So that's a great thought. Okay, thank you. Anything else? Oh, yes, Counselor Buzzard.
Yes, Betty, I looked at your report. Is there a minimum age limit on the National Treasure?
A minimum age limit, there was at one time, and that's one of the things that we're working on right now. It started out at the age of 50, but here lately, it's kind of gone down on the age of the treasures that are nominated. And at the time, we all, I think the thought was at the age of 50, they have not reached, I can't think of the right word, but at the age of 50, they're doing a great job. And even at the age of 30, if they're doing a good job and they get nominated, but to us, or to me, myself, they're just going to get better as they get older with their craft.
Well, I'd heard, just kind of through the grapevine about the age limit, that there were some fairly young people getting
Yeah,
in as national treasures, and we had a lot of older people. that
yes.
Wasn't, and I was wondering if we didn't have a minimum age
That's
limit.
one of the things that we have been discussing. We're going to
Okay.
try to make it policy.
Okay.
So we're working on that.
I think that's a good idea. And then, as Counselor mentioned about the younger kids a while ago, and I know this is a separate issue, but I imagine through JOM we have a list of younger kids that are artists and do those things now, but kind of just a thought, do we look at a minimum age and then put some recognition for those people under that age? Just some thoughts there, but anyway, I just wanted to mention about the age minimum.
And also there is some people actually like try to campaign for the living treasure.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So, it's just kind of, you got to find out.
I can't believe it.
I think that we do have a good process currently.
Yes, we
And
do.
I also
We
think
have
we
a-
need to address the age restriction.
This is such an honor. Do we do anything as a tribe to mark, should one pass away? Because there's so few of them. Do we do anything to mark the grave? A tombstone or a marker of some type?
We don't currently, but that's a nice idea. Like, you mean like put a medal or a bronze or
Yeah.
something on their
Yes.
gravestone?
Just this past year, we lost 2 treasures, Shell Carver, Nicole Scott, and Jesse Sawi for blowguns. So those 2 we've lost this year.
We do have a burial policy that
Yes.
we passed here.
For the treasures.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
If I might just request that maybe at your next meeting, bring that up
Okay,
about designation.
okay.
That's a great idea, thank you.
Medal or something on it?
And that age policy, I think that's probably good for discussion again. When I think of a national treasure, I don't think of a 25-year-old.
Exactly.
I mean, I just,
Exactly. I know
Yeah.
what you're saying.
yeah,
I want to know.
I won't.
But also the paperwork that you fill out to nominate someone does address that they
Yes.
must have either a lifetime achievement or, a lifetime toward working in that craft or s-
And
or
they've
skill.
also taught in
And taught.
communities or schools and so many years of
Like 10
teaching
years.
their craft.
10 years. That right there eliminates a lot of younger people, but I think we need a policy.
Yeah.
So. All right, thank you. Good report, Betty. Thank you very
Well,
much for being here.
Oh,
See you in
stop.
2 months.
You know.
All right, the next report, Mr. Roy Boney. We're always happy to hear from him about our language program.
Last time I saw Roy is going to Paris. wasn't he?
Yeah. Harrison bag.
Yeah.
Bonjour. That's all I have.
Well, I'll start off real quickly. You may notice you have those desktop calendars with you. Yeah, we do those every year, so this is the 2020 version. And you may notice too that the syllabaries, that's the old syllabary that Sequoia wrote with initially. And the numbers are actually the Sequoia numbers, because he did have a number system too. It was never really picked up, but we're trying to revive it to see if people will actually start using that. So that's what the calendars are there.
Thank you for those.
But I got a couple of highlights I wanted to mention since we last met. Rayleigh Eastwood, she's a student that was in our Cherokee Language Teacher Scholarship Program. She graduated from NSU in December, so she has her degree in Cherokee Language Education now. So we're really excited to see someone doing that. And thanks to a partnership with the Cherokee Language Master Apprentice Program, in our program, we're going to send her to the Master Apprentice Program. So she's starting on Monday. So this is kind of an extension of our scholarship. This is more of a pilot too. She's the first one we're doing this with. But she's a very serious student. She's demonstrated that she is, dedicated to learning Cherokee and teaching Cherokee. So we want to help her advance her skills there. So we're really glad about that partnership with the Master Apprentice. That's kind of tied to the next item. I believe at the Education Committee, Ron had mentioned we have been meeting with the Oklahoma State Department of Education to review the Cherokee Language Certification Test. We started that conversation a couple years ago because the situation is the state has a teacher certification test for Cherokee language. That test has been on file for about over 12 years or so now, maybe longer than that, but the test is flawed, and it's been flawed since its inception basically. It's really hard to pass. Yeah, Betty Frog's one of our teachers at Immersion, she had difficulty with it. So it's flawed in the sense that some of our speakers can't pass it. So we're fixing this. So we have people from our program in education, the immersion school, including Betty, Cherokee Language Master Apprentice, and NSU staff. So we're meeting together with the state to do this test revision. It's a pretty involved process. It gets difficult at times, but we're really glad that we finally got a chance to look at this test because it's been keeping qualified teachers out of the classroom. And this is only for the state level certification because we have our own internal as well. So we contract with these language instructors throughout the communities. They are certified by us, not by the state. So there's two different certifications happening here. So this review we're doing is with the state, but with ours too, we're going to review that as well. We want to make everything more standardized, at least internally, for our speakers and teachers. So we're all starting at a certain base level. So right now it's either you're mastery or not. So we want to have these levels for some of our learners that could teach some beginning Cherokee as well. So we're looking at modeling our system sort of after the ACTFL standards, and those are the national standards for language proficiency. So we'd have you got novice, intermediate, beginner, and so on as it goes up. So we want to start identifying our speakers in that same sense where they are so we can identify their levels and help them get higher if they need to. So that's our push for the certifications for Cherokee Nation and for the state. I have an update on the RSU TV course that has been airing. That's been a really great success for us. According to RSU, they've had over 3,400 people viewing the show now. Out of that 3,400, we have that's for the TV part. So it airs 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 1 p.m. on Channel 35. That's the RSU channel in the Tulsa area. It doesn't broadcast much further than that, but if you miss it, it's open to anyone on the RSU TV website. So all the episodes are there. There are 48 episodes total. So it's a pretty in-depth course. It initially started as a 4-credit course at RSU for the college students there. So the class is free on TV and online. And we have a secondary component where, through Cherokee Nation, if you go to the Cherokee Nation website, where we do our online class with Ed Fields, there's a section for RSU TV now. And you can log in, it's all free, and you can take these quizzes. So you watch an episode, go take a quiz and see how you did. And at the end of the 48 episodes, if you pass the course at 80% or higher, you get a certificate of completion signed by the chief and the teacher. So right now, in that particular course, we have 144 people that are enrolled in that. It's been going up steadily since the show started. We are also in talks with doing Cherokee 2. This is Cherokee 1, so we want to do Cherokee 2 like this as well. And with that, I'm open to any questions.
That's some exciting stuff. Yes, Counselor.
Hey, Roy, RSU, man, they're stepping up. I hear a lot about them and things. What does our NSU down here do, language-wise, for us?
Well, they have the only Cherokee language degree program in the country.
Okay.
So we work pretty closely with them to make sure they have content, and we help with the students, and we have scholarships for them as well. So we got a relationship that are going. But after this aired, or the news came out too, Dr. Ron Cambiano came to visit me from NSU to talk about what more can we do. So I think they're excited to maybe expand what they do as well. So, and since they're just down the road, it makes sense to do something with them. But they do have that Cherokee language degree program. So that's unique in itself. It's the only one in the country that has that. So you can get a degree in Cherokee language education only there at the moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we need to do one at Carl Albert, Sallisaw, NSU. We can't have enough of these, really.
Yeah.
How many did you say were enrolled at RSU?
Well, that's just watching on TV. It's 3,400 people so far. I've been watching it. But we have 144 that are formally enrolled in our online certification process. And then the producer there says it's hard to track live viewership numbers, so they'll have those at a later point. But it's reaching quite a lot of people.
Yeah. President, I saw him at a ball game, and he said the same thing after he watched, I guess, he had some people watching this meeting here. He said, what do we need to do? I said, well, we need to have a sit down and see what it is you want to do. Because, the sky's the limit in this language program. And Roy, you've done an outstanding job with this. Appreciate what you've done, you and your staff.
Yes, Counselor Austin.
Yeah, one of the motivations in the initial talks that created this was making a program that was available, because we know other colleges may not have the ability to put on this, but this is available for any college the way it's structured. It is online. It is a course. It is a college credit, and as long as those colleges will communicate with RSU, they can make arrangements for the college credit for their students who are taking it, and for it to be paid for through any scholarships they may have. So that is something that's part of the entire structure of it, was so that regardless of where a student is, they can take this course. That's possible. I mean, all that may not be in place, but we're working that direction, and that was the original intent. So RSU is committed to that process as well.
Good. Thank you. Counselor Legg.
I had the principal for Sallisaw Central inquired about us helping them fund a teacher that could teach a Cherokee course there at that school. I think they got somebody in mind that is a speaker, and I think he may be a part-time coach or something, but want to know if there was any assistance for us to bring them on full-time to help teach a language class during school. And would it be allowed through the state, would the state recognize it in lieu of Spanish, and do Cherokee there?
Yeah, that's the way to certification. Well, there's a couple things here. The school, they prefer a certified teacher, for that subject area they're teaching. But for Cherokee language, there's an exemption to say, I guess, if a person is a speaker, Cherokee Nation will recognize them as qualified. We said, well, we know they're fluent, they can teach. The school board can sign off on that, and they can be hired as an adjunct instructor, and then they can teach in the classroom, and it could be count as credit. The other option here is, an example is at Salina School. There's a teacher there named Emma Dorman. She's a certified Cherokee language teacher. She actually has her certification, which is kind of rare these days for someone to have that in language, but she has that. But the school didn't have enough money to pay her full salary. So what education has done, education services, we have split her salary. So we're paying the other half, so she can teach at Salina, and she teaches at Pryor too. So if there are any situations like that, we can work out something so we can get more teachers out there. So like with this situation, I think we could probably work something out.
Would you contact John Spear? He's the principal at Central High School in Sallisaw.
Okay, John Spear?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's wonderful. I appreciate it.
There you go, Daryl. There's your answer.
Counselor Shaw?
Yes. Roy, I'm so proud you came back from France. I hope you had a good time.
Yeah, it was great.
My questions, I have a couple here. Does learn.cherokee.org, the course, I know it must resemble Rogers State University to some degree, right? The question I have is, are the tests, since they're both by Wade Blevins, are the tests the same?
Well, there's two components. You know, we have one test, one side that is for college credit, which is a bit more rigorous, and that's only at the RSU side. At learn.cherokee.org, that's for the completion, so that means you just completed the course. You're not getting any kind of certificate saying you can teach or anything, it's just that you went through the entire course. Those quizzes are a bit more simple. Some of them, mostly they're like true, false, and matching and that kind of thing, just to see if the person is kind of retaining some of the information. So there's a difference in skill levels here with the RSU for credit and the RSU just for the completion.
Okay, and then I had a constituent actually notify me or call me to ask me to inquire. They completed the course through Cherokee Nation, the first course. They haven't received a certificate. Is that an automatic thing if you you pass it at 80% or whatever?
Yeah, what happens is, we have another online, I think they're referring to the online course with Ed Fields, which just wrapped up late last year. Those certificates actually are going to be sent out, I think, next week, because they get signed. They get signed by chief and the instructor and myself, and I just signed off on a bunch of them yesterday, so they should be going up pretty soon.
Wonderful. They'll be excited to know that. And will staff members be featured speakers at future CCO at-large meetings?
I know we're open. If they get invited, they'll go. I'm not sure how.
I know you had the one in Arizona, so I was just curious as an at-large representative if they're going to be, because I usually try to bring up language, and I felt bad that I didn't realize that you had someone there that was going to speak about the language, because I brought it up in my speech. So anyway, if you could just let me know if anyone's ever going, so I won't talk about it and leave it totally open to them to do all the, because they'll know a whole lot more about it than I'd ever dream of. So.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We usually try to send someone. It's just kind of the CCO who they invite, but they usually do invite a speaker or two, to go to those. So.
Thank you so much. Love your report.
Yes, it's always a good report. Anyone else before I have one more? Oh, go ahead.
Follow up, yeah.
Counselor Christian.
Well, what are we, have we had any more talks about like incentives for young folks to learn the language?
Not specifically, no. I mean, I'm glad you mentioned that. We have a teacher, his name's Lawrence Panther. He used to work for us, but he moved to Stillwell. And in his classes, he teaches Cherokee. That's his whole thing, is teaching various levels of Cherokee. He does that for his students. He gives them a little, we'll take them on a field trip if they do well. He does these little incentives for them to learn, at least in the school. But in terms of, we don't have a good incentive program, honestly, for the community, for that. Because it does take some time for some people to learn. They want that reward, to keep going.
Right. And I love what we're doing, and a lot of folks are to be commended, and I love that. I think we could dig deeper, though. I mean, I'm fortunate enough at my school. On Mondays, I don't have to do a dadgum thing, because there's a lady comes in and teaches Cherokee to my 5th graders all day. I love it. And I think we can go a step above that. I mean, they're going to learn a few phrases. They're going to learn the animals and numbers, and which is a great thing. But a real sit down, incentivize something for the, so you can, if you go to Walmart or something, you could see kids. That sounds like duh. Everybody wants that, but I've never really. Like I've said in here before, we all do things for incentives. There's probably not much that we don't, that we do that's not for incentives. And I think we can have some deeper conversations about, by golly, young person, you learn this, you're going to get this. Really learn it.
Yeah, that reminds me of when I was a kid in elementary school. They used to have that program, that reading program, where if you read a certain number of books, you get a free pizza from Pizza Hut. Yeah, do something like that, but for language, that'd be great. Maybe not pizza, but it could be something.
I mean, something big,
Yeah,
maybe by golly, senior.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, you can have a conversation. I mean, I could fool somebody with what I know, but I would never pretend to speak it. But I know lots of phrases. But by golly, high school senior, you graduate, pick you a college.
Yeah.
Boy, the ears would perk up
Yeah.
on parents and everybody. You know, something like that, and I'd be one seat that would look into getting into the purse on something like that one of these days. But I think we need to have some conversations, a little. around that.
I would like to see something like that too. Yeah.
Thank you for letting me do that.
There's a lot of good ideas that come out of this, and you are doing great work. Does someone else have their hand? Okay. Roy, in regards to the desktop, those calendars, could you possibly give me about 5 more that I could share with my Native American Fellowship, Inc. in South Coffeyville? They have a culture class that meets through the school year, and these kids are learning language, and I think that would be a great teaching tool because it's big, and if you can spare them, just
Yeah,
give
yeah,
us some. And
we
then-
can do that. I brought some extras with this
Okay.
group here. Gail has them, but if
I'll
you
just-
need more, we
I'll see what she's got left, thank you. And then the Medicine Keepers booklet, you developed that booklet. Could I get one of those too?
Yeah. I'll ask
It's
her.
developed a booklet for Medicine Keepers group of vocabulary for going into the woods, and it will be distributed to Cherokee learners. And these kids are really serious, and I believe their families are too, about and you know, enhancing their knowledge in all areas of our culture. So I think that'd be, if you give me a couple of those, it'd be good.
Okay, I can do that.
Thank you. All right. Any comments?
It's good.
Okay.
Good,
Thank you
Roy.
for your report, as usual, Roy. Very good. And next up is our new Director of CCO, Kevin Stretch. Welcome.
To follow up on Roy about the, Councilor Crittenden's incentives for young people, you know, we have that 14 gen, the CEO map has a 14 gen program at the junior high school at Sequoia that is in school. It's a supplemental in-school program that to continue on, especially those that graduate from the immersion school, so they can continue that. So there's an incentive there, and then there's a summer camp where we take a busload of them back east and take them to Cherokee and through all the historic sites and everything like that too. And then they have a summer camp program, but not just for that, but also so that's kind of an incentive, because I think they get a little bit of monetary kickback for that as well, okay?
I like it, and just let us know we can help you, and you know, just like everybody, and it's not an easy thing, but like those camps and those classes. I know we're all looking for them to come out of those things, you know, speaking the language.
Yeah.
You know, so
Okay.
let us know we can help you. Thank you.
Well, also, I don't know if Roy spoke about the CLMAP program. Roy's probably part of it as well, but they're working on a couple of, and they're in early stages of animation projects to do like animation for Cherokee language with different groups. So there's not just one group that's working on that, but 2 or 3 different groups, including outside folks. But they're working with the Cherokee Nation on that. Let's see. And as far as the at-large speakers, we invited one last year, and we're going to do that this year. Maybe not every event, according to what the schedule is, but yeah, we think it's a great idea, and we would like to continue doing that. Let's see. Anyway, so you have my report. I will say that I only report to one committee now, which is I think good for you guys. But so if I talk a little bit about community stuff and not just cultural stuff, so I hope you forgive me. But we should be sending out today or tomorrow a new quarterly schedule of, in your districts, what cultural presentations are going to be going on in your area. History and Preservation Officer Catherine Gray has been transferred to education, so she's going to be working through them. We're going to continue with Ms. Gray on at-large presentations, but she is going to be working on the history course through education. Let's see. The biggest project we're working on right now, we just finished signing contracts for the 55 groups, Cherokee and district groups that were getting CAUTA grants this year. Everyone that applied and was qualified is getting funded, and we just signed the contracts on those, so they should be getting their checks pretty soon. We have this sustainable community initiative where the chief is giving us, and the council, $7.5 million over the next 3 years to help green technology for the community buildings. So this is specifically for the community buildings, and it's, I'll say green technology, but it's also alternative energy, alternative resources, so that, you know, they're not going to be completely off the grid, but, you know, if they want everything from, if you want new caulking or high efficiency windows, high efficiency appliances, solar, wind, there's really no limit to what you can ask for, and we'll discuss it. The Cherokee Nation Environmental Services and Cherokee Nation businesses have inspectors to do both the environmental inspections and the structural inspections of these buildings, so that, you know, if somebody does want solar panels put on their roof, that we need to make sure that their roof can handle that first. So those inspectors are going around the 14 counties right now and have contacted the organizations so that they can go out and inspect the buildings with them. And then they send us a report, and then we work with the organizations to fill in an application. Because like CCO, we don't know everything there is to know about solar and wind and alternative energy sources. And so that's why we have these folks helping us out to, and the organizations, to say what perhaps you need for your building that would most benefit your building. No one's going off the grid. You know, we're also including on that power generator backups, because as we know, community buildings are where people go when there's an incident, when there's an ice storm or a tornado. They can go there and take showers and have food, and we want those to be up, you know, 24/7 if we need to. So that's something that's also included in there. So those are our biggest projects that we're working on right now. The CL MAP program, starting the February the 3rd, they have 8 new learners in a cohort for their new Master Apprentice program. So other than that, that's all the highlights I have. Any questions?
Counselor Deere.
Yeah, can you send me an email with those CMB inspectors that are doing that? And then I'll talk to you later about some of the stuff that we talked about earlier about the CCOs.
Okay.
And different information we need to get, so.
Okay.
And on the cultural part, on the presentations, you're gonna send out that calendar. Do we directly call you? Because we got sort of a lot with the WASO going on and Catoosa and the North Tulsa stuff. So who would you think that I just keep plugging to those people?
I would, and Brad's gonna laugh, because if you're watching Bradley Wagnon.
I know
would
Brad.
He'd be the person to contact directly.
Okay.
And you're gonna ask me for his phone number.
Yes.
And that is here somewhere.
555-555-555.
It is
Yeah.
918-718-5522.
Don't read my phone number out now.
Right.
Yeah, because he might have to get a house in Tulsa and Owasso pretty soon. So. But that's it. I thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
Now, he is the new community outreach officer for
Okay.
Cherokee Nation.
I just knew
CCL.
it did something different.
Yeah.
And, you know, we've had a lot of stuff going on over there.
Okay.
And the calendars are full, so. All right, I appreciate you. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else?
Yes,
Or-
the grants, you said there were about 55 COTA grants that were given.
Yes.
Would you share those with Gail? Yeah, plus, I'd like to know how many of those are out of my district that applied for those.
All right.
I think some of the other council members might as well. At one time, a year or so ago, when we needed like a handicap ramp for some of our elders,
Yes.
and I don't think we had that in the budget for you guys, but John Stay at Home was really good about doing that. And they did several. And I don't know if they've been called back on those or they're still doing those, but they were really quick to get in and out for a very minimum price there.
Yeah.
Do they still do
We
that?
still do that, yes.
Okay.
We
I know a lot of those
were.
were emergencies. Now, it
They-
wasn't just like, it wasn't a luxury thing, but it was a,
Exactly. And we still do those, and we do maybe 8 or 10 a year.
yeah.
And if someone knows that they're going into the hospital or
Yes.
there's a need right now, then we can kind of plan those out. If someone's going into the hospital and going to need one when they get out. And so it's easier for us to do that than it is to, call us today and you need it today kind of thing.
Right.
But we will gladly take those calls and get it as soon as possible. Right now, they're working on one in Sequoia County.
Okay. And we have funds that can handle some of that.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, Counselor Smith?
We visited the other day. Have you thought any more about the ceremonial grounds? They qualify for a meeting on that?
The ceremonial grounds, those that apply get a $3,000 grant from us every year.
But I'm talking about more,
As far
Like
as,
the
as
community
far as
centers.
doing community work grant is different than a COTA grant. A COTA grant operates the organization. Community work grant works on the facilities. And so it's a little bit more fine-tuned on that. If it's a Cherokee Nation property or a long-term lease, then community work grants could be an option for that. But it would be specific what you could use that for. This $3,000 for ceremonial grounds can be used for whatever they want to use it for. But the community work grant could not be used for whatever they wanted.
I know some of them, they have bigger turnouts in some of the community buildings and it would get used the right way. And I just wonder if we could get fixtures and stuff up there to maybe help them.
Well, to me, off the cuff, the best thing for them to do, I think, would be make a 501c3 on the side and work with the Cherokee Nation to try to plot some land and organize a building, a construction project there.
All these, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Just real quick.
Yes, Councilor.
So I've been dealing with the Marble City Food Pantry. Right now, they're currently on a 20-year lease. I'm trying to get that modified. But I have talked to Tamara Hibbard, the mayor of Marble, and either she's going to have a special council meeting or we're going to have to attend the next one. But when we attend, I want to get it modified to where it starts today for 25 years. She's in agreement, but what I'm needing is just if they're applying for any assistance, just to, I don't want them to miss out on anything because it's not, they have to be under the lease for 25 to 99 years before we can get assistance through the COTA, correct?
That's correct.
But they're working on it right now, and so I'll just try to give you a heads up that, the ball's rolling on it.
Yeah, and they're looking at maybe expanding too and options on purchasing property around it. Okay.
Anyone else? Thank you so much. Good report,
No.
Kevin. Okay. last but not least, we've got Brenda Partain for the Historical Society, Cherokee Heritage Center. Welcome. Good morning.
Hey, Brenda. How are you this morning?
Good. You?
Glad you're here. Thank you. You guys have all received my report.
Thank you.
But want to hit the highlights. We have a new board election, and our officers this year are myself as president, Honor Keeler is vice president, Ron Cambiano is secretary, treasurer is Susan Chapman Plum, and of course you all know Principal Chief Hoskin and Deputy Chief Brian Warner are both ex officio, but they also have voting rights. I didn't know if everyone was aware that they do have voting rights on our board. And Paul Westbrook and Winnie Perdue are also been added this year. And I know that as the interim director, it has been a whirlwind 4 weeks. This is my 4th week now since I've been there, and processing, assessing, getting to know all of the staff and moving forward with a lot of the plans that the board is wanting to change. Since we are a separate entity as a nonprofit, we want to say thank you to the Cherokee Nation for everything that they do for us, and we are a part of the education budget. So, and CNB does a lot of our marketing and things like that. So I work really well with Molly and Travis. I appreciate all that they do with our staff and what we do. Since it's my first report, do you want to ask me questions first and go through that, or how would you prefer to do it at this point? Because I have lots to tell you.
If everyone has had a chance to read the report, maybe we could start with questions, and then if you think of something as we're doing that, just speak up. Does anyone have?
I have one question. I'd like to know how much money was raised at the 7-Star Gala, the most recent one.
It was about the same as the year before. What we came down was most of the sponsors. The attendance that was taken at the door was higher, but it all kind of averaged out. It's around 30,000.
Okay, very good.
Anyone else?
Okay, well, that was quick. The report, a couple of things in the report that I wanted to highlight. When I'm talking about my priority list, you guys have enacted a new registry, a Historic Registry Act, and I will be really excited to find out how that is going to affect us and what we can do in the future as far as grants. Because as I've been doing the assessments for the infrastructure, there's a lot that needs to be taken care of. And I've been working with several people coming in, doing fire suppression, security, sound systems, all of those things that need updating. And possibly we'll be doing a capital campaign just to take care of the building. So that's one of the things. I can't wait for you guys to come in. We open our doors next Tuesday, February the 4th, to the public again. We've been closed since December 30th so that we can do a lot of repairs. I have been really working closely with all of our maintenance and housekeeping. Lots of cleaning that needs to take care of, a lot of painting. So you guys will see a little more sparkle when you come. Looking forward to what we have. The biggest exciting thing that I think will be a major change is working with one of your career services and programs. I want a greeter to, when you walk in the door, you have a Cherokee speaking greeter, and they will all be dressed out. They will be in either traditional wear or the Ancient Village era, depending on, because we have the Ancient Village, we have our Adams Corner, which is 1890s, and then you have your modern day. They'll be in one of those three things. But to have a Cherokee speaker, and we have 4 speakers on our staff. And one of the things that's important to me, since culture is the importance there, is to teaching the staff as well some Cherokee every day. We need to start talking to each other in Cherokee on campus. And that's one of the new exciting things is our new greeter. going through my notes, our exhibits, we have 2 exhibits this year, and the first one is going to be coming from our collections. We've been doing our inventory, and in archives and in collections, going through and getting a full physical inventory and putting everything into our programs and our Past Perfect and updating that. I've got some appraisers that are coming in that will be donating their time to do an update so we can get the insurance updated on all of our collections, the conservators, what's needed for that. But with that, we're going to be doing an exhibit on that things are coming out of archives and collections. And let me tell you, it's fun. Now, if you walk into archives today, it's a mess because, you know, we've got boxes spread out. We're opening it all up. The pictures that are coming out of the archives are phenomenal. We actually found an original of Stan Wadey photo, and you know what we're going to do with those things. So it's been fun, and for me as a historian and a genealogist, I've enjoyed that. The second exhibit for the fall is going to be the Cherokee Foodways, and I've already been in contact with a couple of departments here in the nation and cooperate, you know, working together to, our village garden is going to be, you know, from the corn, not only in harvesting, but to modern day, and how we're going to incorporate that into all of our programs that we go out with our outreach with education. Our outreach program, which is Shanice DeCloud, has done a fabulous job. She reaches over 14,000 students every year, and on all the districts, and she teaches classes with, as well as, you know, our fabulous education department. So
She was at the.
there's so many things that we need to work together on, and I want to make our exhibit fantastic in that way. Question?
Yeah, I got a quick question.
Yes, Councilor.
You know, we've asked this several times. That with all the archives coming up, with the archivists and all the stuff that was downstairs, and have we found anybody to take that role of the guy that left?
No, and that is very, very critical for me, because I've got to finish the job description that needed to be updated, and that will be done in the next 2 weeks. And so I want someone that's certified, because the archives is the focus of the board this year, archives and collections, and getting all of the protection that it needs and getting it updated, the correct boxes. I'm currently looking for $7,500 to buy the correct acid-free boxes. So any of you who would like to donate for that, I will be happy to accept it. But no, you know, all of the things to find the funding to bring all of that up to date and what it needs. But it is our serious priority.
Yeah, because I think it would be, especially for opening stuff and figuring out weather and temps.
Mm-hmm. As you process through it,
Yeah.
doing all of the documentation, because putting everything in the right order. My biggest focus not only was the staff and how to work with the staff and what's needed, but the archives.
Right.
But it's always funding. It always comes to funding.
It's always money in it.
It's always money. But I'll get to that in a little bit.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions on the archives collections?
Councilor Fred.
I have a question. Currently, how many staff do you have?
30.
30, 4 speakers, budget, are we doing all right with our budget?
Oh, that's always a conversation. Right now, would you like numbers?
Oh, you can pass them out later.
I can give you numbers. I can give you percentages. What would you like?
Okay. And then my next question is, has the transfer of the land, is that official now?
It is official. Thank you.
Okay, so now we can contact architects and engineers and get a plan design to build a new heritage center.
Yes.
I don't think you'd get any no's out of that.
Okay, well, I'll back you up for just a second on that. One of the things that, as we're going through, I've actually collected all of our blueprints, trying to get a good knowledge, working knowledge, and an updated version of where everything is. As far as our septic system, before we build any new buildings, we've got to update that. We've been in contact with your water and sanitation engineers, and they're currently looking into, there's a septic system going in from the casino to Indian Springs over to the stomp grounds. That should be finished in 270 days. We would like to hook into that. So
Okay.
we're gonna have to find funding to be able to hook into that, because once that little key thing is done, we will be able to put in more buildings, put in more bathrooms, because that is a huge, huge issue for us, especially when you have 1,400 children on campus in one day.
So we just need to get some infrastructure in place before we plan these new additions, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Who's putting that down as far as cost so we can address it?
I am putting together a cost estimate, not only for infrastructure, but all of that, so I can take it to my board, and so that everyone can be aware of what's needed. There's a lot of things that need to be needed that I'm addressing. It's just like, you know, I'm like a squirrel running all different directions, figuring out, okay, I gotta address this, this, and this. So it's been a lot over the last 3 weeks.
I will appreciate what you've done, and it's finally happening though. Now it is in
Absolutely.
our control, because I think in years past, with that word they used, Cherokee, they thought we had complete control, and we didn't.
No, we get that almost on a daily basis. People actually assume that we are owned by Cherokee Nation, which is not, because we are a nonprofit museum. So we always say we work closely with you, we partner with you. And so we're still raising money. We have to bring in our revenue. And that's our goal, is to bring in revenue. That brings me to, after we talked about the exhibits, one of our revenue sources I've been looking at, and so that, I think somebody said to me the other day, we call it low-hanging fruit, because there's the easy things that can bring in revenue. And some of the things that I've looked into is our traveling exhibits. Every time we do an exhibit now, we're going to try to make it a traveling exhibit, so that will be a revenue source as well. The other thing is I've been creating new policies that the board has approved that will, for photography, for filming, all of those things are costumes. We don't normally charge for any of that. Those are things that we're going to start charging for, to bring in more revenue. The other thing that we're developing is a legacy giving program. That's something that's not been there in the past. We've worked with the Tulsa Community Foundation to work and get something set up so we can have a legacy giving program for the Heritage Center in the future. I've personally taken it upon myself to start fundraising through membership, driving up our membership. That right there is one of our biggest revenue sources that I think has been overlooked and needs to be updated, which brings me to your at-large meetings. For us to be building our revenue, we need to be there, but I don't have the funding for travel expenses. And so, for us to start bringing the revenue in, I need to be able to spend some to get my people out. And so that's going to be a huge request for us as well. Of course, there's always these asks, but, we have a plan. We're creating these plans to get things moving. It's time for a change. It's time to update. It's time to fix. It's time to protect. And, all of the things I know that I get smiles. I see smiles around the table, but we're ready, and it's time.
She's pretty good.
The last one is our Cherokee Heritage Press. We're getting that back in action. They actually do the Moravian books, and we have got the volume 9 out and had an order filled today for 180 books going out to the press, for order. So I also actually talked to a couple of departments about the coloring books and the different things that you guys are trying to do in-house that we might be able to process for you, and will also be a revenue source for us. So we're looking at all the ideas of how to bring in revenue and bring up our income, because I can give you the percentages of what you do, what they do, what Cherokee Nation Business does, and what we do, and creating that. A couple of the highlights that I think is fun, I've listened to Mr. Boney and Mr. Stretch and those things. Our Cherokee National Treasures, to me, they're important. We focus on culture at the Heritage Center. We're creating a new policy where we're going to have 2 of our national treasures highlighted every month so that they can have a small exhibit. I would like to incorporate them into our preservation committee as advisors on accuracy, authentic, if they're authentic, and they need to be heard. Their voices need to be heard at our center. So I'll be working with Betty on that. There's those things like that we need to start these programs, and it's important to us. And as a board, we're very involved now, so I'm happy. Our outreach, I told you about our outreach program and our speakers, and I think one of the other things is our current exhibit is our baseball exhibit. How many of you guys have seen that? Did you enjoy it?
How much longer is it going to be up?
It will be up until March the 28th,
Okay.
and then we'll be getting ready for our Trail of Tears art show. It has been requested. We are currently turning that into a traveling exhibit. And the Fenimore Art Museum has shown interest. The North American Indian Museum in DC has shown interest. So we're creating a traveling exhibit and have some revenue for it.
That'd be awesome.
So those are the highlights for me. Updating our fundraising campaigns. We will start incorporating some new ones. We'll get that to you. Have you guys looked at our calendar of events and everything that's on it? Is there any questions? One of the things I wanted to highlight on the calendar is our Cherokee Power Weekends. That is a new program that we're starting this year. And right now there's only going to be 15 spots. It's a limited spacing. And I think it will be a really fun thing for people to come in to do. And I look forward to having more information on that when we get there.
Will that be open to the public?
Yes. Okay. Now, the first one, since it's kind of a trial, it will be by invitation only. The first one will be. And then after that, it will be.
The one in April?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I believe Counselor No Fire has a question.
So on just a quick clarification, it was, the museum used to be state-owned, right? It was owned.
No, they were actually on the reversionary clause.
Okay.
If we closed down, then it went back to the state.
Okay, so now we're able to move, that's why we're able to move forward with, so how is it listed on the register? It wasn't listed as the museum that was listed, is it listed as a tribal museum, or was it listed as a state museum before? I mean, I just was curious on how it's listed, because I know you have state parks, state museums, federal parks, federal museums. How are we listed? I just didn't know if there was grant money that we could go for because it's categorized differently or not.
I can't answer that question. I'll have to get back with you on that specific part. But we do get grants. We do
Okay.
have a lot of grants
Yeah.
that we are applying for. Right now, we currently have one, which we have a development manager that's from Cherokee Nation Businesses that's in-house that we have valued highly since he got there. He applied for a $150,000 grant for archives, and we won't know until this fall.
Awesome.
So we do get grants.
Yeah, I knew we did. I just didn't know how it was classified. I knew there's been some changes going on up there, and if I didn't know how we were classified before. If it changes, it's just something kind of a learning
I can find
thing
out.
for me. Perfect. All right, appreciate it.
I do too.
Appreciate it.
Any other questions?
Counselor Shaw, oh, I'm sorry, Crittenden, I believe was first, and then Shaw. Doesn't matter. Whoever, hop in.
Oh, thank you. Brenda, speaker and different ones have brought this up over the years about the amphitheater. Now, is that still kind of fairy tale status of it actually happening?
Well, good question. I appreciate that. The fact that the board is going to be putting together a master plan, we're in the strategic planning phase, and that is part of what we're working on. So I can give you an
good.
answer at a later
Like
time.
the revenue you were talking about, this area loves entertainment of any kind.
Mm-hmm.
Just, we've got a college, we got all this stuff, but, you know, if people are thinking up ideas, you know, if we can't have an amphitheater,
Okay, thank you.
like Echo Hollow, you know, a stage of, you know, people come out. Just my experience with that here is the NSU show. I mean, every night we put it on, it was full. River City. You know, just people love entertainment, and if not a amphitheater, you know, some sort of stage, and we have C&B where we work hand in hand with entertainers. And maybe because I love music, this might sound off the wall.
No, it's not.
But
It's a good idea.
surely we can say, hey, yeah, we're gonna hire you at the Hard Rock, but let me add this, see what you think about this, or just something, revenue.
And well, there was a plan years ago that I've been looking at.
Well, look forward to it, and appreciate you taking that on. I know it's, you give your heart. I've known you for a long time to whatever you do.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for taking that over. One last question. Entrance into like our Heritage Center, is the elders, they get a discount, or are they
Yes, they
free?
do.
Or
Our general admission is going to be $12. Students are $7. Elders and college students are $10. And then military's free.
and I mentioned this before. Some people like it, some people don't, but I think this. I asked the question one time, what do we do for our 4/4? And since this is a cultural committee, 4/4, that just screams culture. Not me, not my mom, not my dad, not my kids, not my grandkids. They're not going to be 4/4. But I asked the question, what do we do for our 4/4? And the answer was 0. So I didn't know if some of the entry fees to some of these things could be kind of a start for that. I'd love to.
I can look into that and find out. I'll add that to.
Of course, that's not a
We
great
do have.
big deal, but I've always, it seemed like the place to plug that in.
Yeah, because we do have a Cherokee Day where it's one Saturday a month. If you're a Cherokee citizen, you get in free.
Yeah, if you don't mind, just throw that around. They might throw you out of the building, but I believe we ought to do something for those 4/4.
Oh, they won't throw me out of the building these days.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions?
Yes, Counselor Shaw has.
Mine's not a question, but mine's a comment. If you want to grow your membership, you know, something to think about is the at-large community meetings, and I would suggest you work with Kevin Stretch and see if we can't, the leadership and the members at so many of our at-large groups want to feel connected to Cherokee Nation. And this would be a way to involve them, to see if you could get that organization to sponsor a table and supply, and you send information out to them, maybe on Kevin's truck or somebody's truck.
Well,
because our staff is all booked to the gills, I mean, on what we're doing. But I'm just saying, send out, perhaps there are members at large that would want to send a donation in to support us.
Well, they do actually put out information for us.
At the at-large community meetings?
I noticed when I was at the gathering, they do that, but my request is for us to have a physical person from our staff who could focus in on that. The literature is put out. I mean, they are doing that for us, but for us to build a membership, I would like to have more of a budget to be able to send people to travel. Because that's very important to us.
Oh, it's very important. I was just thinking that if you could involve the members of the group we're visiting
Yes.
to be involved,
Yes.
that would involve them to want to join.
That will be part of our membership
You need to
campaign.
attend one of ours to see what's involved, because there's so many speeches going on and demonstrations that they don't often have time to visit all the tables and see all that it is. So if you had that organization, the host organization, with their membership right there, I think you would increase it through the very people that we want to address.
Oh, yes, because right now we're a little over 500 in our membership, and we need to increase that dramatically, because that is a huge source of revenue for us.
Okay.
So I just got a text that says ICW requires a minimum of 4 hours of cultural training for foster homes. Maybe they can get with the Heritage Center to provide that, which could be a possible another revenue source for y'all.
ICWA?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, do I have a contact person for that?
You can get it to her.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, get it to me. Okay,
Brenda,
yes, sir.
what'd you say the cost for admission was?
Our fee is $12 for an adult, $10.
Isn't that a little high?
No.
It's
Not
really not.
considering-
So our attendance in the past 5 years has stayed pretty steady on people that come through there?
Yes.
At $12 a shot?
Well, it just went up to $12. We were originally at 10,
Yeah.
but we've increased it to
Molly, is that about right? We compare with other museums? If we go to Hillcrest, I mean, if we don't Gilcrease.
Yeah, we've
if we
actually
go
checked with
Rogers
other
County,
programs.
are they, what are they, Keith?
Say that again, Joe?
What's the cost of admission there at, of your museum there?
In Gilcrease?
Will Rogers.
Will Rogers? Anywhere. I'm just
You know,
trying
the
to
last time I
Pretty
paid,
decent, man.
I'm always there for
He's
some
like, I don't
event. I don't remember the last time I paid.
That's what I asked Victoria. She goes, I don't know.
It's an average between $11 and $15.
Okay, I just thought for this area, it's kind of, I thought, to me, it's kind of high, but maybe not.
Yeah, but we've also been working with cultural tourism because of the passport. Now that the fees are no longer in existence, you know, that was a big part of that. We were a part of that, but we're going to be having a coupon in the passports for our entry.
Okay, so most of our visitors would be not from here, would you say?
Yes. Now, most of our visitors actually travel within 2 hours of where we are. That is a majority of our visitors.
Okay, well, we're still getting traffic then, you know. Thank you, Madam
Oh,
Chair.
we get traffic every day when we were closed. You'd be amazed.
In this regard, I have a quick comment. I don't know if this is feasible to do, but I know when I travel to other museums in other states, most of them, like the Heard Museum and different ones in Washington, D.C., if you have your tribal card, you get free entrance. And that might be a nice thing to offer, because, you know, just to get other tribes interested.
For like a special,
Well, either a special
entry.
rate or free, depending if
You
you
know,
go along-
discounted.
Discount, yeah.
Yeah, discount.
But that goes along with what Sean
But
was
I mean,
saying
some of
about
them get in free. I mean, I go to
Cherokee
the Heard
Citizens.
Museum and there's never.
one day a month.
If you have your.
Wait just a second, She said one day a month Cherokee citizens get in free, yet at all our other museums, I mean, we were just told that it's free admission.
But you also have to remember what the difference is in the operations, what Historical Society is doing at the CHC versus completely Cherokee Nation, CNB.
No,
It's just me saying that.
Okay, I'm just thinking of what Molly's report was. I wouldn't want people who are listening in to misunderstand that there's a difference here. Because Molly just, gave us a report that said that our tribal citizens get in free to our museums in here. Now
I
this
know.
is connected with the Cherokee Nation.
We need to make sure that again, like she just said a while ago, that the Heritage Center, Cherokee Nation. Yes, last
Real
one,
quick to
please.
answer your question, Gilcrease is $8 for adults, it's $5 for kids, teachers are free, veterans are free, and plus they have the membership thing too.
Okay.
So veterans get in free, but they do, that's their cost at Gilcrease, and they have all the different stuff, so.
Okay, well, that's very helpful. Well, maybe with us being in charge now, you being in charge, we can look at all of that. What are the benefits of being a veteran? What's the benefits of being a speaker? Look at all of those incentives there.
Oh, absolutely. And if Cherokee Nation had the ability to purchase something for all of its members, that would be a huge revenue source.
That would be. Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Brenda, very good report.
Thank you.
No, you can leave the table.
Oh, okay. You're done with me at the table. All right, thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, old business, none pending, new business, none pending. Announcements, the next meeting is tentatively scheduled for Thursday, March 26th at 10:30. Any other announcements?
March 26th.
Yeah, we meet every 2 months.
Oh.
And lunch has been ready for some time. So.